This lesson is going to introduce you to taking elements from Illustrator and dropping them into Photoshop, and then trying to adjust things like the levels and color and getting the perspective right as you take something that's um, flat from Illustrator and drop it into something that's maybe got perspective in it in Photoshop. So to get started, go download the images. They're available through Brightspace. And then we're going to start off by looking at what we have. So this is our card, it's just a generic white card. And we're going to be adding in these elements. Okay, a graphic. This is um, an Illustrator graphic, okay, with all of our outlines. And then this text has also been turned into outlines. You can use any text you want, but for now, we'll just use the ones that have been provided. And we're going to start off by dropping some elements in. So first of all, let's adjust this image just to kind of brighten the brights. So we're going to go Command M, or we can go alternatively, we're going to go Image, Adjust, and we're going to go to Curves, okay? And that's going to bring up the Curves dialog, and we're just going to brighten this up a little bit, try and get the whites white, okay? And you can see if you go too far, it really washes everything out. We're just going to pump that up and hit OK. Okay, and you can see it just gets rid of, or just kind of brightens up our colors. Okay. All right, from there, we're going to be dropping our graphics, which are here, into this image. To do that, we're going to be creating a rectangle. So go down to the rectangle tool, click on it. We want to make the rectangle roughly the same size as the thing it's going to be using in the final file. So I want to get the roughly the perspective correct by having roughly the right size image. So what I'm going to do is, so if I had an image or a rectangle this size, it would look weird because it would then stretch the image to be landscape, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is with the rectangle tool, we're just going to click and we're going to set this to the size that we want this to be. So I'm kind of estimating that this is, if I'm working in inches, maybe 5 by 4. If I'm working in centimeters, maybe 10 centimeters by, I don't know, call it 5. We'll put in centimeters. So I'm going to say, and it doesn't matter the actual size because we can scale it up. So let's call it, I don't know, I'm going to go 8 centimeters by, let's try 6 centimeters and hit OK. All right, and that makes a rectangle. I'm going to scale this up a little bit, holding Shift to keep the proportions right, and that's probably okay. We'll adjust that as we move. Okay, I'm going to move that into position. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to turn this layer into Smart Objects. I'm going to go to Filter. I'm going to go Convert for Smart Filters. It's going to give me a warning. I say, okay, that's fine. And then I'm going to make some edits to this. So first of all, I want to adjust the position of this. So let's turn our opacity down to about halfway. And then I'm going to zoom in. And I'm just going to adjust these corners so that they match the card. So Command T, or I can go Edit, Transform. And I want to use Distort because I'm going to be changing the perspective of this. So I'm going to take this corner, put it up here, bring this down to over here, and adjust that over here. And just get all these corners aligned properly. Now, because this is a paper card, hit OK here. Because this is a paper card, you can see there's a little bit, like this part is correct, but then there's a little bit of overlap here, and that's because the paper is not perfectly straight. It's a little bit bent. So I can again go here. If I go to Edit, Command T, which is my Command T is again Edit and Transform. I'm going to click on this guy here, which is the warp, and I'm just going to kind of pick up this corner. What I can do is I can kind of bend this. It's just going to be very slight, but I just want to align it so that it's right along the edge of this here. Okay, so it matches up with the paper. When I'm done with that, I hit OK. Okay, so back to my rectangle tool. Okay, so right now I've got this selected as fill. Let's turn this back up to 100%. Got to set to black. I can very easily change that to white and change this to be no stroke. And when I created it, would have then made it white with no stroke. But for now, it doesn't matter. We're going to just keep it the way it is because we're going to be editing this. So I'm now going to double click in my layer palette. I'm going to double click this. It's going to open up another Photoshop file. Say OK. All right, so this is a new file. Now what I'm looking at here is if this were the card that I was looking at, this one here, if I was looking at it straight on, okay, this is what it would look like, okay, if there was no perspective. And here you can see that it's angled a little, so the perspective lines kind of go off to the left here. And if I were looking at this flat, it would look like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to turn this layer off. And I'm going to go and grab from Illustrator some of my elements. So I'm going to click on this guy here. I'm going to copy, go back over to Photoshop and paste this into the center here. Paste, Smart Objects. Okay, and once I'm done with the sizing, maybe I'll bring this down a little bit in size, place it over here, and I'm gonna say okay to that. Now, nothing gets updated here until I save this file. So I'm gonna go File, I'm gonna go Save, and then jump back over to my first, and we'll see that now this has been updated with the graphic that I created over here, okay, as if it were flat. Here we can see the perspective has been applied to make it look like it is on this flat image. Let's go back over here. We're going to grab a couple more elements. We'll go back over to Illustrator. I'm going to grab this element here. I'm going to copy that, Command C, back over to Photoshop. I'm going to paste this in over here, Smart Objects, okay. I'm going to make this a little smaller. And so we're going to align our business card the way that we want it to look. And you can do this any way that you want. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in here, Command plus, paste that in as well, Smart Objects, place that where I want it, size it as appropriate. Okay, and then when I'm happy with it, I'm gonna go Save, File Save, and head back over to here, and we can see that that's been updated in my file. Any changes that I make, so if I bring these elements up, okay, and then I can align them properly in the state or in the file, okay, get things working the way I want them. Command S to save, and this will update in our final work. Okay, I'm going to grab the last few elements here from Illustrator, copy these, back over to Photoshop, paste them in here. Okay, and there's our final business card. Heading back over to, oops, save that. Heading back over to our working project. Okay, so here we have our I guess tutoring card. Now, something that I want to do in sort of to make sure that things look realistic, this is a little bit brighter. The lighting on the egg or the graphic doesn't match the lighting on the card, and that's because it's setting these colors to the colors that were used in this, which are not the same as what we'd have in here, because here we have light falling off and some shadows and some kind of darkness. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this layer, because we're kind of pushing this through or punching it through into a white background. It's really simple. We can just click on this and go to multiply, and that, you'll notice, changes the way that these interact. Now, each of these have, all of these blending modes have got different algorithms, I guess, to kind of interact with what's behind them. Sometimes it's difficult to guess what you're going to get with some of these blending modes, because it all depends on what's on this layer and then what's behind it. But for something that's got color, mapping onto something that's white is really straightforward. We just go multiply and it knocks out all the whites, and then it looks quite realistic in terms of what we have here. The last thing I might do is just add a little bit of a blur to this, because if we look, this image here, it's got a little bit of speckle in it, okay, and this is quite sharp. So we're going to zoom out. We're going to add a blur by going filter. I'm going to go down to blur. I'm going to go to Gaussian blur, and I'm going to bring that up to, I don't know, maybe 1.2. 1.5, that looks okay to me. Okay there, and I'm done. I'm going to file, save this work, okay, and then I'm going to export a PNG to include on my Wix website. Okay, that's it.